Welcome everybody. It's been a long time, but welcome to another episode of the Key to Games podcast here on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. So, we have some returning friends and roundtable panelists for our topic for today. As we're going to be discussing Nextfest. So before we kind of do like a little update about what's going on with the channel and where Josh or other Josh is, I'll give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, say whatever you want. So we'll start with Seth and go down to Tomo.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Seth Goldberg, also known as a strategy informer in some circles, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Mm-hmm. Right. And over to Tomo.
Tomo?
And I am Tomo Moriwaki, game designer of now at this point 25-ish years, somewhere around there, and the creative director for a small dev studio called Hyperkinetic Studios.
All right. And for what's going on here with the channel, so as I said, like, we've missed the last 3 weeks of the Key to Games cast, as Josh or Joshua Reyes is unfortunately not well right now. He's a bit sick. He said he should be hopefully back to 100% in a few weeks, but while he is out, I'm going to try and fill this up with some temporary guests or do some solo shows, and I do, wish him the best of luck and a very speedy recovery. In other news, my latest book is actually coming out in 2 days. I got an early copy of it here. Just this massive tome of RPG design. Everything you ever wanted to know or too afraid to ask about. What is a CRPG, JRPG, SRPG, all the RPGs. And I guess at some point we should probably do a round table trying to catalog all the RPGs that have ever existed. But it is going to be hopefully one that people will enjoy. I'm going to be starting up writing first-person and third-person shooters in the next few days. So, with that said, I don't know how many people will get watching live, as we've been on and off again with the whole roundtable, but of course, for the recorded folks, our topic for today is discussing Nextfest, and specifically kind of like do's and don'ts from the event, favorite games we've played, thoughts on this whole idea of demo showcases and whatnot. So, I guess I will start, as I think of the crew here, I probably have had the most nightmarish experience covering these games. So I did, 9 parts of my best of Nextfest. It was only the games I really enjoy. I didn't count all the other ones I've played. So I think I easily played a good, I would say 120 to 140 games in the span of 10 to 11 nights of streaming, and that is a crazy amount of games to play. And like you said, for the nodding in agreement, and it is such a very interesting way of covering titles. So I want to throw, because I can ramble on for the next hour by myself, so I'm going to throw it to you guys. What do you think of Nextfest, or just the festival circuit we're now on when it comes to game coverage?
I think circus is a good term. It's too much. It's too often, it's too much. Every 3 months is it's a bit difficult to handle, especially if you're doing any type of critiquing or trying to keep up with a large group of games. It's, I download 100, 150 games during a Nextfest, and then you have to go through some of them. So what I do is I download a bunch, and then I go through the list and I pick out 20, 30 that I try to get to. I just go through them. The problem is you can't get to the 100 that I download. I'm lucky if I get through 30 of them. I'm not as insane as Josh. Some of them go away, and that annoys me. But I don't like time demos because frankly, my time is really precious, and it's scattered with 16 projects. So I want to get to a lot of these, but they're not around afterwards. I literally have 300 or 400 demos on my system right now, about a terabyte. And every Nextfest, I clear out some of those so that I can bring stuff in. And 3 months is way, way too much. Maybe they should do 2 a year, in my opinion.
Right, and down total.
Well, and I don't disagree with any of that, but I hit Nextfest much less intensely than you guys do. In fact, this year, I didn't really play any of the demos. I kind of looked at some of the games that were coming out and kind of just like took in some of the hype, and then was too busy otherwise, and so I wasn't able to really think about it. And it's. I think we can fairly say that it's too much for me as well, but I don't have a problem with that necessarily. I feel like last year was great. There were some strategy games. Is last year the year with what they had like a demo of something called like The First Men? Was that last year?
Yeah, TFM.
Yeah. Along that name I remembered because it sounded very Game of Thrones, but along with it, there were a number of these other demos that I played that I all found very interesting, and it was kind of stimulating and a lot of fun ideas. I didn't really go back and catch up with any of those games, unfortunately, just because of how busy things were. But it was still like I remember Nextfest fondly because of that. Of course, I won't remember this current Nextfest hardly at all because I wasn't able to engage. But yeah, I think in the grand scheme of things, I do love the fact that Steam makes a big deal out of it. I think there are a lot of people that get visibility that otherwise wouldn't. So I think that's nice. And interestingly enough, with Nextfest, really big players don't jump into the fray for Nextfest. Or I don't really recognize it as such, right? Like, and I never would play like a demo for some big game like Assassin's Creed or like some new Monster Hunter if during Nextfest. That just would never happen. It would never even come to mind, right? So that one of the things that's really nice in sort of like conceptual vibe for Nextfest is it's fundamentally kind of like it's the little people and their games, and that's yay.
And
a couple of bigger folks will jump in. Dungeons 4 was in this Nextfest. I think that was one of the bigger games.
And it's up to 4 now, huh?
Yeah. I'm excited to see it. I didn't play the demo because that's one where I want to be delighted and surprised.
And you don't have to play the demo for Dungeons 4.
Right.
And I think one of the more interesting points is that there's technically two kinds of like fests going on with Steam these days. Again, we have these major events with the Nextfest that again seem to happen like once every 3 months or so. And then as who said it in chat? I think it was Grumpy. Grumpy mentioned Screenfest is happening right now. So we have kind of more niche ones. I think there's one for African American developers. I think this was either in September or early October. Ludo Narracon, Tacticon, like when we the nichier festivals, those are the ones I'm fine with being pretty regular, just simply by the fact that, to Tomo's point, this is a great opportunity to get a lot of smaller developers or developers we wouldn't necessarily like see elsewhere. Give them some time, in the spotlight. I think the Brazilian Games Festival may have either happened or is happening at some point, too. Again, like, I can't even keep up with a lot of this stuff, and I'm the one who plays 100 games each festival.
Hey, something interesting? I might go so far as to say that by having these things, for anybody to enter with very little friction, that it actually promotes game development. And that for smaller developers, that this gives them a little push. It gives them something to shoot for. It puts them into the community and a little more active with users and other developers. I was on a stream with IGDA because they had a little game fest a few years back. Maybe it was like many years back at this point. And it was great. I was on a Twitch stream with just a sequence of game developers. And then, you get to meet those game developers and talk to them. From the developer perspective, I think it can be at least very, very valuable. And you know, Seth probably knows this like the back of his hand. It's like developers should engage in those things and get involved and get to know people.
Absolutely. This is a great time for the developers to get in touch with their community, get in touch with other developers. Get in touch with Seth. Get in touch with me. Yeah. I'm
me
monitoring
too.
What's going.
Fair.
The guy who plays 100 Steam games. I'm still here.
Yeah, make sure to send him early to Josh too. Give him that early stuff so he can cover 180 of them instead.
I got hit 500 at some point, and then my head will explode.
I think that's a really good point. Is we've got the Steam Fest, we've got all the stuff like Brazilian, and then we've seen Russian, we've seen Eastern Europe, we've seen Polish developers, and then we have the genre ones, Bullet Heaven or Reverse Bullet Hells, whatever they're called these days. That's doing a big fest, and they've got a Discord channel, and everybody's been in there talking, and it's their first time doing a festival, and they're really putting a lot into it. These are great times for the developers to get to know other people. And I've been sitting in there, and other press people have been sitting in there talking to folks, and I've asked for people to tell me about their stuff. So yeah, this is, in that sense, these festivals are great.
Mm-hmm.
Steam has some regulations on what they'll allow in a Nextfest, though. I think you can only be in it once, and your game can't have come out. It's only for pre-release games. Are early access allowed? No. It's just games that haven't shipped in any form yet.
Yeah, and I think to that point, that's a very important aspect of what kind of separates Nextfest from a lot of the smaller festivals. That Valve is a little bit more strict as to what games they will allow, and I think that is both to the betterment of this, but it can also be a way to easily screw yourself as a developer if you put your demo or you get on there too early. And this is something that I've seen a lot of. Again, someone who's played so many, for those of you who watch, again, when I say that I cover 100 games, that doesn't count the ones that I download, I try on my own, I'm just like, I don't like this, it's not ready. And it just kind of, as we've said before, you download, don't like it, throw it back, go to the next one. And This is something that I think as developers, you need to be very mindful of when you're going on to the festival circuit like this. That just because the Nextfest or Bullet Heaven Fest or NourCon or any other cons you can think of is coming out, that shouldn't be your cue to immediately rush onto the event, especially if your game is not ready. And I guess I'm going to throw this around to the group here. I have some thoughts about when a game is not ready, and I want to see if you guys have anything else on your plates about this. So, for me, when a game is not ready, one, the whole options menu, control bindings, the whole UI is not done. Placeholder art all over the place. Even sometimes it will just have generic AI voice for stuff like that. Other thing is the demo is just maybe 2 minutes long. There's some demos I play where it's I'm gonna get started and it's over. Or you have a demo that just feels like nothing was done playtesting wise. It's actually a bad play of this game. Because I have played demos where the demo just completely sells me on never playing this game again. It just does not feel good. It feels again, we've talked about this phenomenon before, Steam during the whole Steam Direct era, or Steam Direct and the other one, where developers will just put the very first version of their game up on Steam, and then they wonder, well, why is no one buying this game? That this is version 0.00001, and it's the one I just pumped out. Why aren't they spending $5.99 on it? And I'm joking about this, but it is a very big point that this is not the time to kind of just throw your game out there. A friend of mine who is working on several games, he asked me a few nights ago, do you think my game's ready to be on Nextfest? We don't really have like any like prototypes done. We haven't really built the store page. And he's talking about like the next Nextfest, so one's happening like next 3 months. I'm like, if you don't have something like really good done, I wouldn't go on the Nextfest right now, because again, it's your one and only shot for it. So, for you guys, like, what do you think is like when should you not go on Nextfest?
Want to go first?
Yeah.
Sure. Well,
Your
so
game. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you go for it. It's all good. You're saying something.
I misunderstood what you were saying.
Okay.
I thought you were asking if I wanted to take it. Your game should look good. I mean, that's really where it starts. But I'm going to pass it back to Tomo.
Well, I was just going to start with some sort of basic math. Some things like, one, I can generally say that I don't know what the right shape of the demo should be, and I think it varies depending on the game and the potential audience. But I think there's some really seriously mitigating factors in terms of it being a bad idea. And that is, if your demo is bad, it is not likely to get a lot of play. And because it doesn't get a lot of play, it'll lose visibility, and so the downside is minimized. Some people will play it, think you're garbage, and they won't buy the game. And there's some amount of loss there, but that number may be all users that would have otherwise not known about the game. So it's maybe not a big deal. And it'll increase visibility to some extent, even if it's just me seeing it on Steam and never downloading the demo. So the math that you want to consider, like as the developer, I think, is to what extent does having the demo change the situation for us when we launch than it does to not have the demo. And I think it generally skews towards, go ahead. I mean, it's embarrassing, and I get this. Like, maybe you don't want anyone to think you're really awful, because they could tell other people. But their numbers will be small, right? Even the people that are really kind of like dedicated Nextfest, kind of like, early adopter gamers, we're kind of a special breed, and I'm only kind of halfway that. I'm kind of forced to do that because of work. Well, I guess all of us are forced to do that because of work. But I don't think I would be that kind of a gamer if it weren't for that special need. But we all know many consumers ourselves directly who are sort of avid. What's coming up? What are these demos about? What am I liking about them? And we share with them that kind of mentality about imagining what this could be. And so if the idea has a ton of promise, it's really worth it to get it out there. Get the conversation going, connect with some people that will either give you a better understanding of what a user base might like or dislike, and or just get to know anybody who has any interest whatsoever. If you were somehow already a big name, obviously you cannot release something that is bad, because now you have a reputation that will attract attention, and you're playing a very different game at that point. If you're very small, though, you don't have that worry. And so that's my position on it.
So I absolutely agree with all of that. What I'd like to add is that you have to determine what are you trying to get out of this game next? Are you trying to get some basic play statistics, or using it as a play test? Are you looking to gain wish lists and followers? Are you looking to just get some awareness to your game? And if you're going for each of those, what you're trying to show can be different. If you're going for wish lists, you do not want to skimp on your demo. You want to make sure it's solid, that it shows the player what's going on, that it's engaging. If you're going to just show people about your game, I guess the genre matters too. I mean, a visual novel is going to have a different style of demo than a strategy game, of course. I mean, how do you? I would assume a visual novel is one of the more difficult ones to demo out, because you don't want to ruin the story.
Yeah.
And if go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, the last visual novel game that I really enjoyed the demo to was a Slay the Princess that they just released a few days ago, and the thing they did structurally was they basically made the first chapter and then like a little bit of the second chapter as their demo, so they explicitly limited how far you could show, but they showed just enough to kind of give you some element of variance to it, and I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I've seen them do that. I've seen people like the first 30 minutes of gameplay. Um, that could be interesting. I don't cover a lot of visual novels, mostly because you show it to people and they have less of an incentive to buy it on their own. So I'm not really helping out the developers when I do that. And if I do showcase a visual novel, I'm only showcasing 5 or 10 minutes of it. So a demo would be a great time to showcase that if I like what was going on, and then when it got released, people could get the full story for themselves. It's disappointing when I get a demo and it's just broken, or there's a soft lock in it, or a hard lock in it, or things like basic accessibility features don't work. There's a button for them, but it doesn't do anything yet. A lot of us have some various degrees of simulation sickness. So things like screen shake and certain movements in 3D games are an issue, and that will turn some of us off from trying the early access or the release of the game. So you have to be careful. You can't just shovel it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen so many demos that do.
To be fair, those demos that are too jarring in one way or another, they tend to be a little too jarring when they're in full release too.
Yeah, I unfortunately have seen that as well. And I want to add to what Seth just said about having soft locks, hard locks, and missing UI elements or accessibility features in your game. I ran into all three the last Nextfest. 2 games, one after another, I caused soft locks in both of them. And then the other one just hard locked, and I had to kill it in task. So yeah, it does happen quite a bit. Again, we have that running theme. Anytime a developer lets me play their game on stream, there's a good chance I'm going to crash it or find some new bug that they never even heard of. And of course, I catch it live.
That's a good thing, though, because it's getting out there. But on the same token, check your games before putting it out there.
Mm-hmm. Something I forgot to bring up is that it does take a lot of work to get the demo out. And,
absolutely.
And so it does suck if your demo is broken, because then whatever it is you were trying to accomplish, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not bad, you still spent energy just for not bad.
Or you spend energy and it's bad, and then you're kind of even further like
because I started by trying to be nice to when things go wrong by saying, like, even if it's bad, the negative impact is probably heavily mitigated, but to do a crap load of work to accomplish nothing is itself a negative impact.
Oh yes.
So let me list out some of the demos that did it right. Mm-hmm. These are the most played demos that Steam tracked, and Enshrouded was the top one. Japanese Drift Master, Sky, Children of Light, Deep Rock Galactic, Survivor. There was a lot of hype around that game. People were just there was pressure.
Is it an expansion or is it a whole new game?
It's a Bullet Heaven.
Oh, wow!
Yep.
In the Deep Rock Galactic universe.
But that's an example. You can't be bad if your name is Deep Rock Galactic. You're in big trouble if you screw that up.
What was the Sky game?
Absolutely.
What was the Sky game, sir?
Yeah, it's Sky Children of Light. It's a massively multiplayer puzzle game. I've never heard of it.
Huh. Yeah,
it's the third most played.
That's not the The game that game company made after Journey, or
It is from
Journey
that game company, according to the store page.
It's the mobile. It's the mobile MMO where you fly around that got outrageously gigantic in China.
Huh.
It's coming. You know what? I'll play
beautiful.
it on PC because I tried to play it on mobile and it was just. I stopped playing games on mobile in a lot of ways, but I got to give that a shot. Yeah, I saw the advertising for it, and I was a little bit confused because it sort of didn't make sense that there was going to be a release on Steam for a game that's been out forever on mobile, but it's not like that never happens.
Oh, no.
RoboCop had to do it right. They had to put a lot of work into that, I'm sure. So a lot of these games that I just listed out in the top are all bigger efforts. Then we go into Foundry, which is Factorio 3D type game. Pioneers of Pagonia. And I think that's where we start getting into a little bit of the smaller, punchy little teams. Apocalypse Party. The Last Faith. Josh, did you play that? It's a Metroidvania.
That sounds very... Oh, I played the demo before went on Nextfest for that one. Yes. Yeah, like
Opal Battle? BOPL Battle? Again, these are bigger stuff, bigger companies. Headbangers Rhythm Royale. That looks like a great little rhythm game. Last Train Home, which is right up my alley. It was a dynamite demo. Love is All Around, dating sim in the top. Ghost Runner 2 had a demo in this. Again, huge. Stronghold, the definitive edition, which is the original game, I believe. Wow.
How many times do I own that game?
Yeah. And we're going to own it again, I'm sure.
Is
Astria Knights of Veda?
Is Last Train Home the same as like Soldner? Like in its controls, where you're like controlling the tiny little guys that used to be the individual soldiers back in the Seven Strike era?
You mean like Commando? Yeah, kind of like that.
Or like Commando and
like a hybrid of those two. Because remember, Soldner, Heroes of World War II, changed the Seven Strike 2, which is just an RTS with which is really hard to play. But Soldner, Heroes of World War II, you control those tiny little soldiers and you can give them equipment and stuff. Anyways, continue. I love that type of game. I'm downloading the demo right now.
Real-time Jagged Alliance.
Oh, Jagged Alliance. By the way, I'm not going to have 20 different conversations, but one day we should talk about our recollections of old difficult games and what we still think about them.
Oh, yeah, I got so many things to say about like XCOM and Star Control.
Oh, so I'm going to skip. Go ahead.
To derail the conversation even further, Seth, way back in this conversation when you said it's a bullet heaven or a reverse
bullet hell.
Something, bullet hell, it reminded me that one day we should do a stream, and the stream is that we have like a bingo card of genre buzzwords, and we combine them in a way that they have not been combined before, and then we talk about the history of that genre.
There we go. That'll be a good like stream. April Fool's stream right there.
Well, you got some weird ones right now, that's for sure.
We still have to do the I was going to say we still have to do the Starfield Baldur's Gate topic as well. We have that. We need to have that rant stream at some point.
Since, by the way, saying that, I like both games more.
Oh, I like Micro Civilization.
Yeah, that was the smallest effort that's on this top list. Micro Civilization. It's doing really well with kind of like the community that I hang out in. People are saying that it's a really solid little game. I tried it out in the last Nextfest. We're only supposed to be in one. They seem to have been breaking that rule, and I was underwhelmed.
I did.
I'm going to take a look.
I did get into the play test they had for it, like right after Nextfest was over, and that the play test was a little bit more further along than the demo that was in Nextfest. So it does look good. I'm still like a little iffy on like how like the mid to late game approach is going to be.
I mean, they're releasing in 15 days.
Yep.
16. 16.
That's kind of crazy.
I mean, it's been a year and 16 days.
I think what's kind of funny is that of all the games that Seth has mentioned so far, like, I don't think I actually covered any of them.
Right, exactly. So what are we doing? But I think I'm seeing a trend that bucks what we were saying before, that it's the smaller guys. I'm seeing a trend in this top list that it's larger studio heavy.
Well, I would say the top lists are always going to have the larger studio, is going to be larger studio heavy. Rather, what I'm saying is that it doesn't eclipse the smaller studio's visibility, right? That the three of us probably represents ultimately too homogenous a demographic, in that we are seeking variety. We are looking with some amount of depth into the available demos that are out there, and have kind of like a wide range of genre interest. But even still, I think that weird games that no one would ever think of or know to look for, they get to look at during these Nextfests. And that it's, for the smallest of developers, they don't need a real slice of the pie. Honestly, just a sneeze is enough to be beneficial for them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My wish list probably grew by 200, even though I kind of sat out this Nextfest due to the political climate, and my head wasn't in the right space, and I had to focus on client work, because if they're paying you, it's more important than my game project, which doesn't really pay the bills.
When lots of little complicated things you need to figure out is a lot less fun when you're kind of not in a great place.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. I didn't want to overcommit myself by saying I was going to do anything, but I did cover a few games. Honestly, I'm torn by these Nextfests. I'm torn with what makes a good, solid demo, other than the obvious stuff of don't put out crap. Mm-hmm. I go through the Steam page, and I look at the stuff that it's recommending for the specific genres, and I literally download everything that looks interesting, and if I don't have it wishlisted, I have it wishlisted. I wishlist it. My wish list is 2,700 games. My wish list is not a wish list. What it is if you wishlist a game, would you look at Steam News? If there's any update or dev notes or anything, it'll populate into your Steam News and say every week I read the Steam News.
It's more like you're following them on Twitter.
And I get those games. What is it called when you resurface information in a learning environment? Some sort of repetition.
Reinforcement.
What, Tomo?
I said reinforcement. Information percolating to the top.
I cannot hear Tomo.
Oh.
Can you hear me, Josh?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What is going on?
Uh-oh. I think the...
Can you hear Josh?
Me? Oh, did we lose?
Josh?
Yep, test. Uh-oh. I think Seth's audio got messed up.
I love it when you can realize that finally. He's like, oh no, wait, he can't hear anybody. So while he figures out his tech issues, some of the things I'd like to say in terms of what makes a good demo. First of all, the first description of the good demo is it depends, right? Mm-hmm. It depends on genre, it depends on prospective audience, it depends on kind of like the resources you have at your disposal, how much energy you can spend broadcasting your message and getting into, in front of people, like your promotional bandwidth. Certainly what matters, and it matters enormously depending on what people know about you already. But that said, you're going to make an experience, and sort of some of these generic universal things that are necessary to have a good demo, right? Is that when I look at the demo and the name of the demo and that little thumbnail, that what is being messaged to me is clear, and that it fits inside the sort of desire framework of a particular demographic.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's step one is when I'm glanced at, the people that I care about recognize me as the thing that they care about, and that I've done my best so that that one moment of messaging is as good as it can be. So that can be better or worse. You can have a message that's confusing or makes no sense, or says that it's something different than it is, and all those things would be doing it worse, so to speak. Like, you don't even benefit by doing the very best message to get everybody to look, only to look more further to find out that it was not true, or what's actually being offered is different from that. Like, that doesn't really, well, okay, if you could get a really large number of people to see you, maybe there's some, it balances out in terms of it. But generally speaking, you should be straightforward, deliver a promise that's cool to people that want it, and then when they come looking, they're going to get it, because that's the second part of the demo, right? They download the demo and they're going to give it a shot, and now it's this interactive experience that you've designed for that promotes your game, right? Don't think of it as like some small chunk of your game. It is a crafted experience that sells your game. It's an advertisement that happens to be interactive. And to that effect, then, is, again, clarity is important. It starts and it sort of quickly gets you thinking about the game, thinking about what's cool about the game. Whether you play the game or not kind of doesn't matter, although you should play the game, because that's another sort of inherent promise in the contract, so to speak. But if you were to just be pure advertising in your perspective, that they download the thing, and as long as they have a good time and remember you fondly, then you will have succeeded, right? Now, because the actual making the playable experience and how it plays and it being good actually is like kind of the third part of what makes the demo good. And that actually is sort of just the annoyingly complicated reality of what makes any game good, right? That it plays right, that the controls feel good, that the sound is nice, the visuals are good, players not confused about what's going on, and that there's some amount of setup and a delivery that leaves them wanting more, right? And if all those things can come true, and unfortunately, of all the things I said, right, none of them are these sort of like specific instructions on how to make a good demo, but they are does describe sort of the escalating sequence of objectives that need to be fulfilled. If all of them are fulfilled, then you get like a 10 out of 10 on how awesome your demo is, sort of. To be fair, one of the things that probably hurts most products the most is simply the fact that it's actually not, what it is not super desirable to the audience. And unfortunately, it's very hard to fix that, except to do something different. And that said, you don't have to be 10 out of 10 on that front. But if you were like 3 out of 10 on that front, then you're in a position where you might be confused that the demo did bad, but you executed so well. Throw your hands up like you're frustrated, when the reality is that there's some fundamentals about the product that make it so it won't be successful in the marketplace.
And I think there's 2 points here that I want to definitely expand on for the people watching live recorded. So the first thing, what Tomo just said about how you don't want to just like cut a portion of your game out and stick that in the demo, that is another trap I see a lot of developers kind of like fall into, where it's an RPG and the demo is maybe 50 minutes of all the intro, very slow dialogue before 15 minutes of actual gameplay, and then the demo ends. Like, it is very important to be very curating of your content. You can get away with that if it's an action game, well, just start the game right up, bad guy, shoot, loud music, go. But so many demos really, they take too long to kind of get to that good stuff. And some of the better demos I've played are the ones that will explicitly say, okay, we're going to drop you into this part that we find really cool. You do this, okay, you're done with that. We're going to move you to this part that we find really cool. Do that, okay, next really cool part. Demo is over, we end with a big finale. The other point I want to mention, this is something that Seth mentioned earlier in the discussion that is very important about good art. Make sure your capsule art is polished and gorgeous when you go onto Nextfest. Because one of the things that, for people like me, again, like when I'm scanning on a store page for demos to play, I'm looking for like something that catches my eye. If I see like generic kind of like placeholder art with like a basic stock font on a thumbnail, I'm probably not going to click on that. If it looks like something like a very expressive, it looks interesting, like if it catches my eye for more than like a second, then I'll check out like the store, then I'll check out what the tags are. And the tags sound good, then I'll check out the store page. But again, it is so easy to lose someone's attention. And again, it's something you have to be incredibly mindful of as a developer, because getting someone to download your demo, that's like step 3. Like, you're not even at the point of, you have to get them to actually check out your page before they'll even download that demo.
Absolutely, Josh. That's a really big point. Think about how people are finding your demo. Either know about you and they're looking. In that case, you don't have to worry about them. But a good percentage of it is they're going to be looking at Steam and seeing in that genre that they like. And so what do? The first thing they see is the second thing they see is some of your video screenshot from your Steam page. You want to make sure, and then they see the script, a little bit of the description. You want to make sure all of those things are like, and if the people that are listening to this that are developers, speak me out, speak Josh out. We both consult on various aspects of this and throw it by us. And I'm speaking for Josh, and I know he will. We'll go and look at it. We'll either engage with you in a more detailed way or just in a basic way. There's no reason to be in a
Seth, your mic is a little bit distorted, I think, since you
Really?
Oh, okay, there we go. Now it was better. I think it could have just been kind of like how the microphone was placed.
All right. Sorry I had that technical glitch, but you know how it is. We're doing it live.
Yep. And to that point about, like, it is so hard to get someone to check out your demo to begin with. And again, like, as Seth was saying, like, for someone like him and someone like me, like, we're here to cover these games and give an eye to them. And again, if you can't get someone like us to check out your game, there is no way in heck a consumer is going to check on it. And it is a very hard tightrope to walk. And this goes back to what Tomo was saying earlier about the amount of energy you have to expend to get a demo out there. And it's why you need to be very mindful of where your focus is going to be on. Because if it's not ready for prime time, I'm of the opinion that if it's not good to show, then don't show it. Like, if it's too early, don't put it on there. Because a bad demo can easily ruin things. Like, I guess, like, to make this like a very catchy soundbite, don't treat your demo as a playtest session. Don't treat this as, this is the literal first time I'm showing this game to anyone other than me, because that is not the time for it. And again, we can even equate this to kind of how early access has evolved. Like, early access, you want your game to be good. You don't want the very first early access version of your game to be horribly untested, buggy, crashes, because that's what people are going to associate with your game no matter what else you do with it.
If the game follows their own rules, you have one shot with your Nextfest demo. There is no reason you should rush that. There's no reason you can't wait for the next one, assuming you're not on a publisher timeline, or you have time issues. It's better to wait than to push it out, because one soft spot, one issue, can turn off a potential quote-unquote qualified buyer. Someone who's interested in your product, someone who is a donor man. These, like we said, it's 3 steps to get to downloading the demo or whatever it is. If you've enticed them enough to look at the demo, they're probably a qualified buyer. Mm-hmm. That if they saw something they liked, they would most likely follow up, whether it be a wish list, whether it be a follow, whether it be they go and buy your game, or they buy it in a year. You don't want to blow that.
Yep.
In the same way, you don't want to release a buggy mess.
And I guess, like, as the other point I want to mention, some of my favorite demos, I was trying to look up their names before, while Seth was reading off, like, the biggest and most popular ones. One that I really liked was Against Great Darkness, which is kind of like a Breakout meets Bullet Hell roguelike, which was very interesting. There was this game, Castillo, the Nine Circles, I may be butchering that, which is a first-person Metroidvania shooter collectathon. Just a complete, like, mishmash.
What were those two names again?
One was Against Great Darkness, and the other one was, Castillo, Castillo, the Nine Circles. And there was one I was trying to find the name of. You guys may have heard of this one because I'm blanking on it. It was a first-person shooter where it's like first-person tower defense. You're trying to defend a spaceship from like enemies evading. Wait, what's it called? Breach? Let's see. Did it just like pop into my head without even thinking about? No, not Breachway. And I cannot remember the name of this game because it was one of the ones I liked, and I can't remember it.
That's a bummer.
And again, like, I have about... Go watch, for those of you who are watching as I record, go watch my Best of Nextfest cover. There's like 9 or 10 different parts of games on there.
Theoretically, right? Someone might think, well, why don't you just look through your history of played games?
That's a funny one.
And then you're like, well, when you have a lot of games, the vibe doing that is very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, I'm going to see if I can quickly scan. It's easier for me to look at my videos as my most played and see if I can find it on there.
There were some really interesting ones this time around, and I didn't get, like I said before, I didn't get to play a lot of them. Slay the Princess was really cute. There was a bullet one that I really liked, but I can't think of the name to it, and it's not jumping out at me. I mean, there's literally 94 Nextfest demos in my Nextfest folder, and then I have the Nextfest priority folder, which has 21. Some of them may be from last Nextfest. We've got Sandwalkers, which is amazing. I love Sandwalkers. Solum Infernum from League of Geeks, real solid demo, real solid game. The Thaumaturge had a demo.
I didn't get to that one.
That was one of the most played demos. I thought that was really great. New Cycle, another one that I think people should check out. It's a city builder. And these guys were contacting me well ahead of things and making sure that I know about it. Same thing with the PR people behind Solemn Infernum. You know, reach out to your press, reach out to your influencers that you know. Most of us are real friendly. You know, don't think that some of the larger guys are going to just let you DM them and respond back to them. But you know, the medium folks are gonna work with you if you're a genre match. And if you're not a genre match, I don't know how many times I mentioned something to Josh about, or I send them to one of the people in the Strategy Informer team to check out. You know, all of us are connected to the PR companies, so we're getting press releases constantly, and we stay up on these. You know, my team is really solid. We've got some of the other content creators that are adjacent to us hanging out, and we all kind of work as a community. So, and there's not just my community. You know, if you're doing turn-based games, there's a giant turn-based community. If you're doing, you know, just like if you're interested in speed runs, there are people to reach out to for doing speed running. It's the same thing with genre matches. Same thing with press influencers.
Mm-hmm. And
And
I'm sorry, I said your
What?
voice is still like a slightly robotic. Like I can hear you, but it's still. I wonder if it's like how the microphone is being turned, or maybe like a cord came out.
how are we doing now?
Better.
Better.
Yeah. Hmm.
Let me check some settings real quick.
Okay.
You guys talk.
While it's
Talk amongst yourselves.
while Seth is checking that, yeah, like to like Tomo's point from earlier about your goal is to try to get your game in front of the audience of that genre. That is definitely one of the advantages. Like, to go back to our original point about kind of why festivals are so useful, like the nichier festivals, again, like Lunaricon, Latin American Games Festival, Bullet Heaven Fest, and so on. I mean, they're as laser focused as you can possibly get. And like those are the ones like you definitely want to aim for if you're a smaller developer, because one of the advantages, and this again leads into like the whole larger talk about PR, is that when you're in one of those festivals, the festival's kind of doing your PR for you. Now again, don't skimp out on the thumbnail, the story page, the demo, and all that. But if you're having a hard time reaching people, and there is a festival that is within your game's wheelhouse, definitely try to get on for that.
I'm going to check and make sure my voice is okay now.
Sounds better.
It sounds better. It sounds better.
Yeah.
It sounded like basically you had low bandwidth for the audio stream, so it was getting a little bit chopped up.
It had disconnected from my microphone and started to use my headphones as the audio source. And so now it's not on my microphone, so it should be a little bit better.
Okay. And
you may, for your demo, if you have the budget for it, you may want to consider hooking up with one of the PR companies, like what is it, Plan of Attack, Renaissance PR, Stride PR. There's so many of them out there right now, and they will push your demo information out to the influencers. They will make sure that they get the press kits. They will, in some cases, follow up with them, make sure that they need something. And in a lot of cases, they'll get it to them quicker than the Steam release so they can have content out in time for the Nextfest. The Nextfest is only a week. That's short.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of us are Josh and can get through 150 games.
No. I think that for so many consumers, the world is full of too many choices and it's overwhelming all the time anyways. So that's not our problem might be thinking that we can do it all.
Yeah. No, exactly. You are not a bridge builder. If you need to get a bridge built, you're not going to want to build it yourself. You're going to want to hire someone who knows what's going on, or get someone who knows what's going on.
And legitimately speaking, we peddle in a comprehensive understanding of things relating to the industry and the marketplace. So it's beneficial, but there are strict limits to what a human can do in any given moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
A lot of indie developers, especially that don't have the backing of a publisher or a large organization, they think they're Superman. And that's great and all, but at the end of the day, what's your success metrics? If your success metrics is just getting a game out, hey, great, no problem. Do what you need to do. But if you're trying to make this a living, make money at it, be serious about it.
Yep.
Don't think that you can do everything. You want to get your subject matter experts involved. I'm not, and I tell people when I'm talking to them about taking on customers, taking on projects, I will not code at this point in my life. I will not do game development code, because there are younger people that can do it much faster. I understand that at this point in my life, it's a limitation. I'm a good coder, but I'm well out of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Been 15 years since I've, really coded anything seriously. So why would I take on a coding project? On the same token, the Nextfest stuff is kind of marketing, and if you don't know your marketing, get someone who does.
I feel like many sort of typical neurodivergent solo, duo, trio developer group is not going to like what I'm about to say. Although I say that as someone who has been, at least, your sort of run-of-the-mill neurodivergent tries to do it all game developer, is you're not trying to do everything because you think you can do everything. You're trying to do everything because you're not thinking about what your limits are. It's right. Not like, oh, I'm tough, so I can do all this stuff, right? It's actually just like, I looked away, and when I look back, I was doing 70 things. And now I'm losing my mind, but it's been this way for a while, so maybe that's normal. Oh well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When I built my game company, I had to make the harsh realization that the marketing and just the running of the company took 80% of my time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure for your small teams, it's going to be like that. You're going to be wasting a lot of time, and who's gonna do the art? Who's gonna write the game if you're spending all your time in another area? And Tomo put into the chat, marketing games is hard. Marketing anything is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the same hard as a lot of things, though, right? And I think a lot of these people who should take advantage of marketing resources, it's not that they're trying and failing. It's that they're not devoting enough bandwidth to it at all, right? It's being overlooked. And so, because for the people that are overcommitting their own life resources and are diving into marketing, when you talk to those people, they have a lot to say about marketing. And all of what they have to say is generally correct, but they're just stretched too thin, and there's a lot that's still missing because they're just one person, and they are doing some engineering, and they are combing the Unity store for assets because they can't build anything because they don't have the time, and they're having these 15-minute conversations about things that probably should be an hour-long conversation because too many things need to be happening, and they're working on the marketing. Those people actually understand marketing. They're just overburdened, right? But the bad showings aren't from those people. The bad showings are the ones that they didn't think about at all. They're just like, this should be fine, right? And I hate it that I think I might have said something along those lines in the last 20 years ago myself, that would have been something that came out of my mouth.
Well, yeah, you have a big point there with the neurodivergent thing. We tend to overcommit.
Well, the way I like to put it is that you overlook the fact that you added something.
Well, I'll completely forget about it if it's not in my face. So,
so you better get on it right now and dive all the way in.
And then you hyper focus on it, and the game doesn't get built.
Yeah.
But you're a marketing master. Wow, this is the story of my life. My God. Hyperfixation, burning everything. But you get really good at some weird stuff.
Sure. Get really good at talking about game design in my case.
Exactly.
On the topic of diagnosing neurodivergence, I found the term monotropism recently, and just saw some videos about it, and it was fascinating. It was just a great lens through which to look at some of the ways in which some of us more technical types kind of just happen to be.
As a quick time check, it is about 8 minutes to 7. I know, Tomo, you have a hard stop in a few minutes, so I think we'll probably begin to wrap things up, and we can certainly turn to this topic for another time or for a greater roundtable discussion. So, I'm going to give each one of you like a chance to go around, like any final thoughts on Nextfest, tips for developers, what you like, don't like, anything like that, and we'll start with Seth once again.
So yeah, we as usual bounced around on a lot of things, but I think one of the things that we kept coming back to is put in the time. It's important to get something solid out that's going to delight your potential customers, because there's a good chance that the folks that do download your demo are what we call in marketing qualified buyers. And that's the best type of person you want. And if they see your game, they also get to make sure that it's what it meets their expectations. So that makes them even more qualified. So they're much better than just the random person coming across your game. Convert these people into fans by delighting them, and delight them by putting in the work and not skimping on the demo. If it's not ready, it's not ready. There's an Nextfest in 3 months. Every 3 months we have one.
Yeah, and to segue from what Seth there said is, since it happens every 3 months, then you have no excuse not to, in some time frame that is somewhere between 5 and 3 months ahead of your release date, to come out on Nextfest, and that it should be seen as part of the strategy. That should be on the calendar. What is the roadmap of the lead up to launch, right? And it might be the roadmap to the lead up of launching early access or whatever it might be. But the opportunity is significant, and especially for smaller developers, it is a inexpensive. I mean, depending on theoretically, the game is in a position that it needs to be launched at some point in the near future. So making a demo is more sensible. Obviously, trying to make a high quality demo at the beginning of a development process extraordinarily difficult and burdensome. But at this point, it's starting to fall in line with what makes sense. It's probably why they do so many of them, which unfortunately, from our perspective, is overwhelming. There's too many of them for us. But it means for developers that 4 times a year, which you can divide the year into 4, at some point, there's an ideal time for you to get out on Nextfest. And you should. And it's something that's worth caring about, especially if you're small. It's a great opportunity, and missing it I probably see missing it as just choosing to take a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Good point.
At this stage, yeah. The way that things have gone, absolutely.
And I don't have a whole lot more to say about demos, although it'd be great to have another stream about this, because there's a lot of these topics are worth kind of like retreading, maybe over and over again forever, but certainly worth reinforcing because they are very serious issues. What was I going to say? I wanted to say something unrelated, and then I forgot.
Man. And I guess for my final point, another advantage that we didn't touch on, but it's still very important to mention here for small developers, is if you have like a very weird or unique game, something that doesn't quite fit within a normal genre. So this would be stuff like I mentioned, like I already forgot the name of it. The one that I mentioned earlier about Breach, I think it was the one that you're the FPS tower defense. I played this game called Chrysalis, which is kind of like tower defense meets nature roguelike with animals that help you. It was a very unusual game. That Ard Defense, a tower defense puzzle. Oh, my voice just died. And I just remember one, Goblin America, which is kind of like a Cruelty Squad meets like American history, kind of like weird mashup. Like if your game is very different, it's something that, again, like people aren't really going to necessarily find you organically, or something that is very hard to kind of explain, definitely look at a festival as a way to get coverage. Because again, you're going to kind of be able to pull the coverage of the festival to work for you. So even if you can't really describe your game, I mean, the nightmare of like Nextfest, I think this is something that Seth can equate to, is like the tags are just completely messed up sometimes. It's like, okay, this game's in shooter, shmup, bullet heaven, horror, platformer, visual novel, as although it's in each one of those categories. But if your game is very different, it's very weird to describe, look at festivals as a way to get eyes on that. Because this is a great chance to have someone look at this game and go, I've never heard of this game before, but oh my god, what is this? I have to go tell people about it. And that is a really great way of standing out. But again, going too unique, that can certainly bite you, but we're wrapping this up in the next 2 minutes, and we don't have another hour for me to elaborate on that further.
I keep having to hold my mouth because I want to start a new topic, and we'll be here forever.
Well, if you guys are free next week, while Josh is recovering, we can certainly have some of these Saturday Ramble Fests.
I mean, if you're up for it, we should just do like just a conventional strategy, just talk about the state of things and what we've been playing. It just makes a video out of it, and it's capture some fun stuff that we've been thinking about.
I wanted to do a weekly, like, hey, what have you been playing type podcast.
That just fills up like an hour for me easily with all the games that I play.
Yeah.
All right, but again, I don't want to keep Tomo too late, because again, we can certainly run long. So, for the people watching this live or recorded, thank you so much. Again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are some of your Nextfest favorites? Anything you'd like to ask us about tips for demos, being on festivals, anything like that, let us know. And as always, I'll give the little group here a chance to shout anything you're doing, plugs, whatever. And this time we'll start with Tomo and go to Seth second.
Like I said, my name is Tomo Moriwaki. I am one of the co-founders of a game dev studio called Hyperkinetic Studios. Although we do mostly client work, we have a game on Steam Early Access, and it's been there for ages and ages and ages, called Epic Tavern. And you can find us streaming development once in a while at twitch.tv/Epic Tavern. And our Discord channel is discord.gg/Epic Tavern.
Thanks. I'm Seth. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm Seth Goldberg. I run the Strategy Informer. I've been a developer for many, many years, both in and out of game development. And, we're all a big community here in the gaming industry. I met Tomo from his game, and I reached out to him about his game. And, then now we're podcasting. We're friends. And he's a resource, and I'm a resource. So if you need help with anything, Josh is there. Well, that's how I met Josh, is through Tomo. Reach out to us.
Yeah.
We like helping, and we do this somewhat professionally as well. The Strategy Informer talks about strategy games. We're all over the place. We've got a little bit of a team. Come over to our Discord, which is an easy one to remember. It's thestrategyinformer.com/Discord. And we've got the website. We've got the Twitter account. I'll be following the comments, so if you want to leave comments, I'll read those. And my link should be down below in the description.
Mm-hmm. And again, you can join...
I am evil.
And you can join my Discord, links down there. Tomo and Seth's links will be in the recorded version for this one. And we have the Game Wisdom Game Jam starting in, looks like T-minus 5 days. So if you are a game developer looking to test your skills, get frustrated by my incredibly hard topic or theme I have planned, be sure to sign up. You can get all the fame, and even the winner of our last game jam is turning into a full game. So we shall see if maybe what my game jam will lead to a Game of the Year winner in the future. So be sure to sign up. Links are on the Discord. I'm not going to stop talking about it. Buy all the copies of my book. Here's the shameless promo once again. And myself and maybe some combination of Tomo and Seth will be here for next Saturday. We shall see how schedules will align. But with that said, everyone, have a great rest of your weekend and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. And gentlemen, hope you guys have a great weekend as well.
Thanks for having me. Fun as usual.
All right, take care, everybody.